Let's see how different ye old Pittsburgh 10-ton puller is from ye old Pittsburgh 5-ton puller, gear puller is. I, like you, have wondered this for a while. 5-ton, the old 10-ton. All right, so they both come with a reseal kit for the piston inside this jack here. Not sure if it'd be worth all that if you ever had trouble with it, but so right away you can see one of the differences. The one that hits me the most is the length of the actual jaws here. You can tell they're substantially shorter on the 5-ton kit, and I don't know. I have a feeling that there's probably plenty of power in here, but you guys know with the shorter legs, the shorter they are, the more they have to spread open like this to actually get around whatever it is you're trying to pull. And that means then you're kind of pulling down instead of pulling out with shorter legs. Way shorter. And of course this claw, this hook here is much smaller. However, if you're doing brake drums, brake discs, that's going to be quite the advantage there. To getting in between, oh yeah, it's much smaller. To getting in between your drum or disc and the backing plate. Okay, and here's a bit more info about the jaw. So if we start about the 2-inch mark, you can see that it's 1.5 inches high or so on the 10-ton, and on the 5-ton it's about 1 inch high, and on the 10-ton, if you start at the 2-inch mark, you're looking at 3/4 of an inch wide. And on the 5-ton jaw, starting at the 2-inch mark, you're just over 1/2 inch, maybe 9/16 of an inch, something like that. And I feel like we should actually see this set up so we can see. Here's the ram. Nice heavy piece. However, having used this 10-ton before, I'm telling you, this is probably double the weight of this. There is no comparison on which one of these guys is the king in terms of weight, and obviously, which one's stronger. They do look like they are the exact same length, though. Just bigger around, all the way around, and much, much beefier. So double the pulling power means double the weight of the actual piece itself. So I think I'll assemble it, and then we'll just see what we can do here on the back of the wife's car. Oh, but before we do that, so here are the 2 collars for each kit. Actually, not as much of a size difference here as there is in everything else between these 2 kits. Look how much larger those connecting pieces are on the 10-ton versus the 5-ton. But yet these collars are, well, I guess if you look at it this way, that 5-ton on top is quite a bit smaller. But, it doesn't have to be as big when it's half the power, so I guess that makes sense in that way. And then hardware comparison, kind of what you would figure. All right, now let's go see what we can do with it. Okay, as I was putting these together, here's something I just noticed. The jaw on the 5-ton here, if you were to use it in the the furthest hole makes it the exact same length as the 10-ton jaw in the closest hole. So there is that consideration. I've used this 10-ton pillar before, and I've used it in on this forward hole. So I wonder, I don't know, just have to mess with it. But I wonder what the difference is. It may be negligible if you're using this further away hole as far as getting this thing in place over your particular piece that you're working on. Okay, I've got the jaws assembled on both of these, but let's have a quick measurement here. So on the small one, you're looking at about, where are we at here? About 9.5 inches long on that jaw, and on the 10-ton, you are looking at exactly 1 foot long. So a couple inches can make a big difference. That's what she said. And what I'm going to do to start this out is I assemble them both with them being in the inner, or the forwardmost, the forwardmost hole on each jaw. And we'll just we'll see what they look like on the car that way. And then I think what I'll do is I'll move this one to this back hole and then see what that looks like in comparison to that one on the forward hole. So on this car, you can see I've got a lot of room between this backing plate, especially up top here, and the disc. It does come down to a much tighter taper here in the rear, but this backing plate is pretty flexible. Okay, I've worked on quite a few BMWs. They're all about the same. Just aluminum, flexes pretty easy. So on something like this, you're going to be able to push this back and get the bigger jaws over it on the 10-ton. What I might do is take the wheel off of my FJ, and I'll show you that on the, I'm sure the Tacomas and Tundras are the same way. And on that FJ, that backing plate is very thick, stiff, rigid, and it has a curl on the top to make it even stronger. So using that 10-ton, those 10-ton jaws on there is not an option. But I am curious to see if the smaller jaws would fit in there. Now, having had used the 10-ton before, and that's what I'm going to start with, I know that threading this through this center piece, the collar, and then trying to get it in place is, well, let's just call it what it is. It's impossible because it's just too heavy. Okay, so there, you could see I can just push that out of the way on the BMW, and it's not a big deal. Pumping it out too when you get it threaded halfway in there or so. Okay. Whew. That is one chunk of tool. But there we can see, oh God, I gotta do more cardio. There you can see the tool in all its glory and how it attaches. And then I do think I should show you on the FJ and show you why that's not going to work on the FJ. Okay, now I guess if you wanted to, you could, if you can get it, one of the jaws in between the vents on the rotor, if your rotor even has vents. Some, especially rear ones, don't have that. It's just one piece of steel. But again, this is because that backing plate is flexible and spaced a little further back. All right. So my opinion with this is, and because I have used it before, I think I do have some credibility to say this, is that because these jaws are so much longer, you can see we're at a very good mechanical advantage for pulling back. As this goes in, these jaws are going to want to pull very much straight back on that rotor, instead of if they're at a steeper incline down towards the base, which is what I think we're going to see on the 5-ton. You know, you start having to pull down towards the center instead of straight off of that axis, linear rotary beam girder. I don't know. But I've used enough pullers to know that the straighter you can get them, the better off you're going to be. All right, let's look at the 5-ton. Like a dummy, yeah. Let's track the ram. These may not even be long enough. Okay.
Dad, I donated some of my baby toys to Aria.
You did?
Yeah.
Good.
Remember that doggy phone that had that button? I also gave that to her.
Oh, that's awesome. Good job, honey. Did she like it? Nice. Good job. Okay. So we don't have to go any further than this to see two things. Number one, way lighter and easier to get into place. But two, you can see kind of what I'm talking about with the angle of the jaws on this, with them being so much shorter. They're angled way more down towards the center than we had on the other puller. However, what I'm going to do is move the connecting points down to this rear hole and see. I mean, that is comparable to that same distance we had on the 10-ton as I just showed it. So let's do that. And you know, you may be wondering about the price difference. This is May of 2023, and right now the 10-ton puller is $99 without any coupons or sales, and the 5-ton puller is $89 without any coupons or sales. Well, I find that a little weird, but you know, Harbor Freight's a little weird. Okay, so in the outermost position, all right, that's roughly what we're looking at here. Let's thread this guy on here. And with this being a much lighter jack assembly, it might be easier just to go ahead and thread this in first, because you can see with the rotation and the vibration, all this stuff just wants to undo itself. But that 10-ton is so heavy, you know, for me there was really no other way to do it. And I don't think I'm in bad shape, it's just that heavy. Okay, let's get this sucker centered here. And again, you're gonna wanna pump this to where it makes contact as soon as you can. There we go. Oh my gosh, that's so much easier to get into place. Way easier to get into place. And with that outer hole being utilized on there, at least on this setup, I mean, that's the way to go. Get you the most linear pull that you can get. I'm kind of liking the 5-ton. And the ends of the jaws are, I mean, it wasn't even an issue as far as, you know, having to get in between the backing plate and the disc. Those bigger jaws, you're going to have to push a little bit. And on the last vehicle I used that 10-ton on, I had to basically bend the backing plate out of position in order to be able to get the jaws in there. These 5-ton jaws would have worked a lot better. Now, there's always the obvious question of, is, you know, the 5-ton going to be strong enough to get this off of here? I don't know. It's all going to depend on your application. If you're doing cars and light duty trucks, I'm going to say probably yes. Especially if you have access to heat. If you're going to heat up around the hub a little bit, this is probably just the cat's meow right here, the 5-ton. If you're working on bigger, heavier stuff, or, you know, not just brakes, but whatever, 5-ton or the 10-ton may be the way to go there. For a $10 difference, but you know, $89.99 versus, you know, $99.99 for the 10-ton, it makes it hard not to buy the heavier duty one. But if you do that and you don't know about the difference in weight, and you don't really need the extra oomph, no, you might be regretting it. All right, let's take a look at the FJ. And in the stroke of unintended bad luck or good luck, however you look at these things, you'll see what I'm seeing there. Gosh. Good to know about it. Bad to know that it happened. Dang it. Oh, and let the debate start. Is this in a fixable spot on the tire or not? If you are if you're watching my video about which Harbor Freight puller is best, your answer is probably going to be, yeah, I'm plugging that. Yeah, I'm plugging that shit. I know they say only in the middle or whatever, but I think that's probably good. All right, folks, so here is the back of my Toyota FJ. Front is very similar with the backing plate design, and you can see here, I mean, that man bajamba, that means business. And you are not easily going to flex this enough to get a jaw behind here, especially not the big 10-ton jaws. But what I am curious is if I've got enough of a lip here to where the smaller jaws might fit on that, and if a rotor is not too terribly stuck, would this be able to get the thing off or not? I don't know. Only one way to know. Everything as we had it before in the longest setting. Maybe. So just barely. This is going to be another one of those deals where I think it's going to be easier to get this lined up with the tool apart.
Dad, you know where Mom went?
She's at the store with Miss Jess.
Yeah, but her car just pulled in.
No, it was in the garage. I moved it out.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, even with these jaws, you're going to find that this is going to be one hell of a fight on something with a a righteous backing plate like this. You know, I don't know if I've ever seen one quite as rigid and well thought out as this one, because this curl at the top is what really makes it inflexible. You talk about adding a ton of strength, and you can, I mean, yeah, you can move it a little bit, but not enough to get behind the rotor, and not even really enough to get it to bite on the inside lip of this one. And this is vented. I think I said before it wasn't, but it is. Well, there you have it. Just as a point of comparison, here's the 10-ton jaw. It's laughable. Not even close. If I separated the two pieces, I could probably maybe get it to shove back in the gap, but it's not going to stay there, especially not when you try to get the other 2 feet on there. So I guess what I'm saying here is, have an idea. If you're just buying this for home use or whatever, I kind of shade tree on the side, so these are things that I use fairly frequently. So I have a use case for both of them, I guess is what the kids are saying now, use case. But if you are getting one for just your own stuff, maybe have a look and see what kind of setup you have if your primary intended use is brakes. If you got regular flimsy backing plates, then either one will probably do, but I would say for, you know, something like this, you might want to go with the smaller unit, with ye ol' 5-ton. You may find it to be a little more versatile. And you know, like many of you, I've had some really severely stuck rotors in the past, where the only way I've gotten them out was with that old blue flame over there. Behind the monster truck, there you go. That's been the only way that I've gotten some rotors off, including the ones on my old Camaro out there that you can just see the tail end of. Anyway, I hope that this was useful to you. It was actually useful to me to see the difference. And I can't overstate enough how much heavier this unit is. So this is 25 pounds assembled. And this together, I would put that somewhere around half. There's a good comparison of the differences in those cylinders. Although they are all the same length, more or less. Top to bottom, the cylinders I guess are a little shorter on the 5-ton, or the cylinder is. But the length of the unit as a whole is the same. Okay, let's see. So we got roughly a... We start at the 5 on this side and we go, looks like that's about 2 3/4 of an inch. We start at the 5 here and it looks like that's roughly 2 1/4. Maybe not quite 2 1/4.
Dad, what time do you think Mom's gonna get home?
Probably in about another hour. As always, thank you for watching my hodgepodge videos. I appreciate it. Let me know if you have questions. I'll try to answer them. The handle for each one of these guys is the same. It's under the styrofoam flap on the top part of the case.